No, not that much, no.
Hello and welcome. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jaceris Gates. I generally go by Jay. I'm open to any pronouns. This is Student Government's 7th spring meeting. We will have our next General Assembly meeting on March 8th. As a part of holding a trauma-informed meeting, I want to let you know that our usual agenda has changed for today's meeting. Today's student organizations will vote for a fund request, and we will listen to presentations about tuition and fees. Today, our General Assembly meeting is sponsored by Vice President Denny. And with that, I will call the meeting to order. As you know, we have instituted a new attendance sign-in form. If you haven't, please use the QR code on the form to record your attendance. If you have any questions about that, please let us know. For those of you who are online, please update your name to include the words, the organization you are representing, or the word student if you are a current student. We would also ask that you update your pronouns with those pronouns that you are comfortable with sharing with us today. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us and let us know. This is the QR code. I'll pause here for a second for those of you who need to use it. All right, thank you very much. So our last General Assembly meeting was held as the President's Luncheon on February 22nd of 2022, and there are no minutes from the President's Luncheon, so we don't have any minutes to approve at this time. So today, as I mentioned, we will have presentations about student fees and tuition. And up first, we would like to welcome Enid Delaney with the student chair of the Student Fee Allocation Committee.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Jay. How are you? Good morning. My name is Enid Delaney, and I'm part of SFAC. So today we're going to be talking about tuition fees and for the fiscal year 2022. Well, let me give you just a quick report of who we are. So SFAC, we were created by the Texas Code of Education. So all funds, tuitions, and local funds and fees collected by the institution of higher education shall be retained and expended by the institution and accounted for annually as provided in the General Appropriations Act. So this was done in 1971. And so due to this act, we are now a committee here at all higher education institutions. So our purpose is actually to advise the Board of Regents, the President, and the administration of the University of Houston systems concerning the type, level, and expenditure of compulsory fees for student services. SFAC is composed of 9 voting members, and 5 of those members shall be student members. Generally representative of the student body. The remaining 4 members shall be generally representative of the total university community. So the membership for SFAC are 1 through 9. The first 5 are actually voting members and we're part of the student body. 6 through 9 are part of the university and they're also voting members. David Makita is Dean of Students. He is our advisor. Cindy Salzman, Division of Business Administration, is also our co-advisor. Teja Docero, Director of Planning and Budget, is also an advisor. And Jay Gates, SG President, is our advisor, student advisor. So let me give you just a brief history for 2021. These are the things that we have funded in the past for the fiscal year 2021. Counseling, SDI, counseling for DOC intern programs, career for STEM coordinator, SAC, OSA, foster student support conference, student publications, student leadership involvement, and rec wellness. Those are actually base funded, or self-funded is SAC, OSA by Carl Ribbon Shredder. For the fiscal year 2020, we have funded SAC, Orientation, Student Life Office, Math Center, Success Center, SAC, Counseling, Dean of Students, Students Life Office, and self-funded have been the Health Center, Math Center, Writing Center, and Diversity. For fiscal year 2019, our base funded has been counseling, student life, career services, the signal, and self-funded. There were none for that fiscal year for the 2019. So we have a brief history of our fee that we have started since 1992, 1993. We started with 25, and currently we have at $42 per semester credit hour, capped at 252. So we have just a slight increase as the years have gone by, but not too steep. So today we're going to be talking about priority funding recommendations, which are 1 through 5, which are the ones that we're going to be funded for this fiscal year. For first, we have counseling services, a staff therapist outreach coordinator at $67,000. SBAC strongly supports for this budget request as their personnel.
So the SBAC, not SBAC, the counseling services are actually reaching their capacity for seeing patients in a timely manner. So we saw this as a strong recommendation to go ahead and support them, because counseling services has done wonders for many students across this campus, and it's one of the very few campuses that offers this amenity.
Our second priority funding for $11,000 was the Office of Student Advocacy for software and annual maintenance. So SBAC recommends funding due to the value is summarized with the programming, services, and staffing, adding favorable value to the overall school and students' lives. Their highlights have been partnerships with Houston Food Bank Market Trailer, grocery distribution, and UHCL Career Closet. Priority funding recommendations number 3 at $15,000 has been for the Office of Student Involvement for SoCal and resources for RSO organizations. SBAC recommends funding to this department. An incline in student members will have advanced UHCL into the 4th year.
So the other part about this is they came to SBAC in 2019 and had originally requested additional funding for putting another, if I remember correctly, another staff member up there to help monitor student workers. We told them, no, we need to see the use of it, and they have blown it out of the water and have done great and shown a lot of initiative for students wanting the SoCal. So we agree with them that they should get additional funding.
For our number 4 priority funding recommendations of $10,000 was the Veteran Service Office for Education and Programming. So SBAC recommends funding to this department. One, it has a positive satisfaction with students and partnering with school resources and organizations. This building connections and trust within the military community, which brings value to UHCL campus. And lastly, but not last, it's priority funding number 5 at $40,000, Office of Student Involvement, Student Work Center. SBAC recommends partial funding to this upon consideration of degree of responsibilities by the director. Once the responsibilities have been considered by the director, then a hire must be done. So we have a rank value of 1 through 5. And here, number 6 is not really our number 6. It's actually a merit potential at 2% until more campus-wide decisions are known. So those are the ones that we will be funding. But the rest of what I'm going to be talking about in a little bit, these are part of the funding that we want to do. We just need to get a little bit more of a heads up as to work with numbers and not just projected numbers.
Real quick. And just so everybody's aware, 1 through 5 can be done without raising the student fee. So everything that we just talked about can be covered currently. What we're about to talk about is everything that either extra funding will be allowed to open up to us, not us, but for the students, or we would have to raise the fee by $1 per semester credit hour up to 6 hours.
So for future funding, we have at $15,000 the Office of Student Involvement for communication education programming. We really wanted to fund this, and we have more recommendations needed for this department. $74,500 for the Office of Student Involvement for an assistant director of student involvement and leadership. So we actually recommend this to staff this instead of with an assistant director, to staff it with a coordinator. $65,000 Veteran Service Office, Department of Assistant 4, they're asking. SBAC does not recommend the assistant 4. The reason is because other staff levels can actually perform the same level of confidentiality paperwork. Number 9, $20,000 Health Services, increase medical director hours. SBAC recommends to raise awareness before review for funding, as many students are not aware of the services, and a balance of domestic versus international students are met. We saw that there's a little bit of balance between domestic and international students. We saw international students actually take more part in the services versus domestic students. And it's only 5% of the student body versus the 100%. Number 10 at $20,000, Office of Student Advocacy, Coordinator Parallel Services. SBAC does not recommend as few students are served. We recommend to have more information on volume of students' activities versus the existing position. And $53,000, number 11, student government, scholarship stipends, and for the executive council. SBAC recommends $2,500 per person, or 10,000 total for the 4 council members. We requested more data. $16,800 is student government, meal plans for executive council members. SBAC recommends that the meal plans do not need to be one of the 3 fixed rate options that the housing has, and those can be of any value. $348 for student government, parking for executive council members. SBAC recommends no new funding as it is paid by the student fee budget.
That one's actually not entirely true. So SG pays for their own parking out of a budget they have to conduct events. So they're looking for funding from SFAC so that way they can provide more services to the student body, and through like trying to get out more pamphlets or do events or anything like that. So they're trying to use that $348 to put back towards the students.
So as of this time, we saw that there is, we recommended to have no increase of tuition fees. So tuition fees will stay at $42 per credit semester hour, rather than an increase of $1 or $2 or $3 per semester hour. The current rate, it's capped at $252 per 6 credit hours per semester. So we use the 2% as a placeholder to make all these decisions. Thank you.
Very much. Yeah, that was, does anybody have any quick questions before we move on? All right. I want to say thank you very much to Enid and Troy for presenting today, and also to the entire SBAC committee for taking your time to do this work, right? It's important, and how we spend our funds. All right, our student organization allocation budget is currently $21,686.52. We have one fund request that has been submitted. They did do their second presentation last week at the President's Luncheon. However, we would like for them to do a quick summary presentation before we vote on this today. So we would like to welcome the National Society of Black Engineers.
Thank you for the continued applause, and thank you again for allowing me to speak. This is the third time I've spoken. Last week was at the President's Luncheon, so that was pretty intense, but I'm happy to keep trying for NSBE. Quick summary, we are the National Society of Black Engineers. We just started our chapter last semester. This is a national and international organization to increase the number of culturally responsible Black engineers who excel academically, exceed professionally, and positively impact the community. We are trying to focus on the second of those three pillars, succeed professionally, by having students go to a convention. The national convention this time is in Anaheim, California. A lot of great stuff going on. The most important thing is that there's over 100 companies that are going to attend, and a lot of people get internship and full-time positions after this event. Like, you can participate in a hackathon and the company goes, wow, we want to hire you. Your coding skills are great. So that kind of stuff happens. We have a funding request. The bottom number, the total is $15,000. Part of this is going to be funded by another organization for our registration, but we need housing, travel, flights. So we broke down, you can see the numbers here. I know there's a cap on how much SG can offer, $2,000 based on if we spend over $4,000. So we're asking for that $2,000 today. I'm also going to put in the chat, we just created a website for our chapter so you can find out more information about us. And also, if you would like to donate, we have fundraising going on in association with the University of Houston downtown to go to this event, because we have to do a lot of fundraising ourselves in order to pay for everything. So thank you. Hope that you vote for us, and thank you so much. Also join us on Get Involved, so you can be a part of our group.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Does anybody have any quick questions before we move into voting? All right. So for those of you present, you should have received a ballot when you signed in today. So please go ahead and fill out that ballot. And then for those online, please message your vote to Crystal.
It's going to be student.
Oh, sorry, to student government. So these are your options.
It's your. On yours.
Hold on one second.
I'm going to send them directly to Crystal, not student.
Okay, please send them directly to Crystal Woodcock, and not to student government, please. So these are your options, yay, nay, or abstain. All right, as y'all are voting, I'm gonna go ahead and move forward. So I would like to welcome, as we begin a series of speakers to discuss the rest of the tuition and fees, I would like to welcome Deja Cerro, the Director of Planning and Budget, to the floor to facilitate these set of speakers.
Awkward walk.
You wanna
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deja Cerro, and I'm the Director of Planning and Budget. Today, we're going to be presenting 3 different presentations. One would be for the proposed increase to the recreation and wellness fee, the proposed increase to designated tuition, and the dining meal plan that's available on campus. So your first presenter that I'd like to introduce you to today is the Director of Campus Recreation and Wellness, Mr. Brian Mills. Just like.
All right, well, good morning, everybody. Brian Mills, Director for Campus Recreation and Wellness. I believe I just have one slide, so I think I'm just going to be sharing information more verbally, and then we'll answer any questions any of you have. So this is a fee increase effective FY23, and then similar increase for FY24. So my first question, how many of you have been at a rec center recently? Be proud of it, get them hands up. All right, awesome. Well, for those that didn't raise your hand, we are open. We'd love to have you come. For those that did raise your hands, we want you to come back. All right. Campus Rec and Wellness, we have had an amazing year so far. We have been living up to our mission, which is what you should expect from us on a day in and day out basis. I believe we are getting closer and closer to be able to fulfill our vision, which is engage, talk, soaring in health and happiness. And our values continue to be a cornerstone of just about everything that we do. Number one being safety, which we have done tremendous things. Just on a side note, we had our very first staff member actually have to perform CPR, not in the building, not on campus. They were at a park on a day off, and they saw somebody collapse, and they went and performed CPR for 4 minutes, and that person lived. Quit, so we're good. Okay, so our proposed fee increase would be a 10% increase going into effect next fiscal year, and then another 10% increase going into effect in FY24. Each of those increases, the first one would be $11, the second increase would be $12. All right, so before anybody goes, oh, but you already get $110. I have presented at SGA a number of times. I presented at SFAC. And I'm going to try not to do what I did at SFAC, which is paint the horror story of our budget, okay? But I'm going to put it into a really short little synopsis. When this building and this department was created back in 2016, the individuals that created it did not take into account a lot of the things that have to take place for us to be able to operate at the level that our industry expects and to be able to put on and host programming and some of the services. Okay, we have been able to continue to operate and have programs and services available because of the generosity of Mark Denny and Deja and all the work they've done for us, Dr. Biggers, Dr. Maxwell, and Dr. Hart, that have all supported us financially to kind of limp through the last handful of years. But that's not a long-term solution. So these fee increases are not going to solve the problem. They are still going to be Band-Aids, but they at least get us out of a situation. And I'm not trying to brag on this. I worked 105.25 hours in the last 7 days. Anybody want my job? No, okay? And I did it because I was doing 2 different people's jobs that we don't have positions for yet, okay? We have staff members, student staff that work these events as well that are capped at 20 hours a week. They make $7.76 an hour. And one of them worked 16 hours. I had to make him leave. He would have stayed the entire weekend. Okay, so this fee increase is going to help. Number one, our priorities, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping around right here. Our number one priority, which is something we have not done since the day we opened, we are required by state law to set aside reserves every single year. That is supposed to be marked as 15% of our construction budget.
It's 15% of the replacement value of the building. And the purpose of that is if we had a catastrophic failure of the roof, we would need those funds to repair the roof.
Correct. And I'll use Central Florida as an example. They did a beautiful, massive renovation of their facility, and 3 months later, a hurricane ripped the roof off and flooded the whole thing. Their capital reserves paid for that renovation along with insurance and stuff like that. University of Houston main campus just completed a roofing project on their facility. It cost $9 million. Their building is way higher than ours. So
If I could just add one thing, you mentioned that you have insurance, and we do, and a lot of things, but a lot of times those take long times, or let's say it was a hurricane and so FEMA was going to even step in. It's 2 and 3 years before you see dollars from that.
Correct.
And so if we don't have our own resources, then it's 2 and 3 years before the rec center is open again or longer.
correct.
Having our own resources and a reserve allows us to quickly get the building open, get it operating. And then if we have those other avenues, insurance or FEMA, so on, then we would backfill our reserve and not have to build it again. So, but that's the purpose.
And Mark is definitely the budget guy. I'm the right guy. All right, so that's the number one thing. We've got to start doing that because we haven't been doing it, and we absolutely need to. Getting into what this is going to do directly for our students. Number one thing is our students make very little money. Our students go through roughly 30 to 40 hours of training before they're even allowed to work a shift. And they're doing that for average $7.76 an hour. Our student leaders, which are our operations managers who actually have the responsibility of making sure our building is open and operating 93 hours a week, they make $8.33. We have got to get our wages to be more competitive against other positions on campus. And I'm not saying that other positions pay too much. Absolutely not. Our goal is to get $10 plus for all of our student employees, and that's not going to happen anytime soon. But we have got to do something to be able to pay our students a little bit closer to fair market value for their services. And it's even worse when we get into specialty positions like group fitness instructors or personal trainers who have nationally accredited certifications. They're making $10.12 an hour. They could be making $20 to $50 an hour at another facility, but they're here teaching for us, okay? So we've got to do something with their wages. The third priority, we want to expand hours. That is one thing that we have wanted to do since we opened, and unfortunately our hours are set by how much red the university is willing to cover for us. All right, so what we want to do is we want to expand our opening Monday through Friday by 30 minutes. We used to be open at 6 a.m. I can count the number of people who showed up from 6 to 6:30 on one hand. Okay, so we think 6:30 is a good one. We want to expand our hours to close on Friday evening at 8 o'clock. We want to expand Saturday to 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we want to expand Sunday from noon to 8. We cannot do that without more funding. In fact, if we don't get more funding, one of the things on the table is reducing hours, and we don't want that, okay? We have already been doing this, but we have reduced the number of actual closure days of our facility. For this current fiscal year, I think it was at 8. Projected right now for FY23, it's 5 total days that we will not be open. So what that means, we would be open and operating 360 days out of the year. Even when the university is closed, we are open. Everybody's good on that, okay? We have a new field project, that the field behind the rec center and the STEM building, that construction is supposed to be starting in April, fingers crossed. That means it would be completed in November, and because it would be completed in November, y'all will not get to set foot on it until February, all right? Because it's gonna be a fancy new field, and it's gonna be dormant by the time it opens, all right? But right now, what we have is Delta. Who's been to Delta Field anytime recently? I was there this morning. How awesome is Delta Field? Pretty cool. Oh my God, really? Who's gonna give a right answer? Okay. All right. I took a field specialist out there. The ratio of weed to grass is about 1% grass, 99% weed. So what we see out there is actually not grass. It is just whatever is coming up that the Lord put out there. All right. And it's even worse now because what the playable surface is mostly dirt. We have got to get an external company to come in and work on Delta Field. We're not going to rip it out and rebuild it. We can't afford that, but they can come in, they can top dress it, they can aerate it, they can seed it, they can fertilize it, they can do all the things to get the weeds to go away. All right, that's not cheap. And that's also something that FMC is not capable of doing because it takes a specialist to manage a field properly. All right, so we've got to take care of Delta because when this new field comes online, we've got to take care of it so it does not turn into a pasture. All right, and right now, just projected on Delta is 32 to 35 grand a year. When we add that other field, we're talking 45 to 50 grand. All right, now if we don't want to pay that, cool. We just won't worry about it, and that field will last for about 3 months, and then it'll get torn up, and then it'll never regrow. All right, but that's a waste of dollars if we're going to invest in a new complex like that. All right. And then the last part is our departmental staffing. Again, and I'm not saying this to brag. In fact, I am fully aware of how unhealthy it was what I did, but I did it because I've got 4 staff members, including myself, that are full-time professional staff members. Right now, I serve as the director, which I get to do for about 2 hours a week. I'm the coordinator for rec sports. Anybody play soccer or volleyball or basketball? Yeah, I'm the guy who refs your games because I can't afford anybody. I'm the coordinator for facilities and operation, which means I walk around and I tighten toilet seats and I repair door locks. And I did all those little things that annoy me when I walk around the building. All right. And I oversee 55 student staff members, which means I'm still hands-on with training, developing, doing their payroll and all those things. I'm also our coordinator for rentals and reservations, which right now we've brought in about 30 grand in rentals. We've got about another $45,000 coming. All right. I need more professional staff to be able to do my job and to be able to keep this place running. All right. So one of the coordinator positions is a coordinator for member services and special events, which means they would assume most rental responsibilities and they would assume responsibility for the 700 plus non-student members that we have. I'm not going to lie, we are killing it right now with non-student memberships. We've had more in the last 3 months than we had in 3 years. We generated over $30,000 in revenue from non-students. That's fantastic. But what happens when we say, well, now we have to have 1,000 non-student members? Who is that going to impact? We get the money for it, which is great, but who does that actually impact? Now y'all are fighting for space and equipment with non-students. And they do pay more than you. Trust me, that will never change. All right. But we don't know why we have these members. We don't know if they like it or if they're just here for a short time. But if we can keep them, fantastic. Because right now the data shows they're in the mornings, y'all aren't here in the mornings. Y'all are here in the afternoons, they're not here in the afternoons. So it's working out well. Okay. The other coordinator position is a coordinator for informal recreation and facilities, which means they would assume responsibility for the day-to-day operations of the rec center, but also manage our field complexes. All right, again, this morning I got here at 5:30 in the morning. I did payroll for an hour. I responded to emails. I did rental stuff for Erica, and I think you sent me an email as well. I met with Mohammed. All right, and then I went and painted fields. So we have soccer lines for the soccer club. All right, and then I came back, I took a shower, I got dressed, I came here, I met with David, and now I'm here. Okay, that's a normal day for me. This other coordinator position would assume responsibility for all of our facilities and everything that goes on in the building. What that's going to do is it's going to free up our coordinator for fitness and wellness to not have to manage 30 student staff, and she can focus on programming related to fitness and wellness for you. All right. So those are all the things that this $11 is still not going to cover, but at least gets us a little closer to where we need to be. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned the non-students. Are their fees also going to be increased since, like you said, they make so much more money?
We will, with $11, so right now, y'all, if you break down an entire year, y'all are paying $24.17 a year. They pay $25 a month. So if this $11 would potentially raise y'all above them, then yes, then we would increase their fee as well.
Okay.
It all depends on what the fee is and how much it.
Is that being?
We're not gonna do what?
Is it being strongly considered to raise their fees?
When we opened, we already had significantly higher fees and we had almost no members. We have to generate revenue through non-student memberships and we have to be competitive against other facilities. So once we dropped our fee from $40 a month for non-students down to just above the student level, that's when we started to see the increase. So they will always pay more. It won't be significantly more. But say these fees go up and eventually we get to $150 a semester per student, that comes out to about $32 a month. Theirs would be probably in the $35 a month range. But they will always pay more than students, always. And they do pay for their own parking as well. They do not get that free.
Where'd y'all get $11 from? Because it's,
So without going to referendum, we are only allowed to increase the fee by 10% in one fiscal year. So 10% is $11.
is it realistic? I mean, like, in a dream world, right? Like, what would be more your thing?
I'm sorry, say the last part of that question again.
In a dream world, what would be more realistic or opportunistic?
Oh, it would be to go to referendum and raise it to 150 and be done with it. Because then everything that we have been clawing to provide for y'all, we would have the base funding and not have to worry about those things. We could say we can offer 25 to 30 group fitness classes a week at no cost, because right now we implemented a group fitness pass, $20 a semester. You get 20 classes a week. If we had $150 a semester from students, we would be able to not have to charge literally anything except for individual personalized services. We would be able to offer more internships. And again, I'm not a huge fan of unpaid internships. Your time is valuable, just like mine is. And I would love to have business interns, marketing interns, facilities, special event interns, like things that y'all aren't going to get in a classroom that you could get through us. Not saying you can't get them in a classroom, but you would get them more hands-on with us. Yes, sir.
How many student workers do you have on your staff right now?
Currently, I believe we're at 57. And to operate, and of that, about 45 are between operations and fitness assistants. We have 3 marketing staff. We have 4 member services staff. We have 7 group fitness instructors, but I think only 2 of them are students. The others are non-students, like Dr. Leah Beavers is one. And then we hired a couple of instructors from the YMCA that closed, but they are focused on active older adults than they are student group fitness classes.
I'm sorry, I have a question. So you're saying 150 per semester would already cover a lot and also offer extra benefits to the students, like extra classes and all this nice stuff. So did you actually ask about that? And if so, what was the reaction? Because I don't see 150 being such a big stretch from what is already proposed.
So I believe your question is, has it been discussed to go to referendum? And I call it the syringe method.
Yes.
Versus gel cap. This is the gel cap method. You take a pill and eventually it works its way in, versus a shot and you feel better immediately. The biggest thing is we don't want to just, jump the fee. And to be honest, we haven't had a normal year since we've opened. The first year we opened was the only normal year we've had, and that's not normal because it's your first year. And then we've had COVID, hurricanes, COVID. Mark, you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, if I could, in Brian's defense, the decision was that during the pandemic, when our students were struggling with a lot of things, that trying to do a student referendum and get it passed was probably not the best timing and the best plan. So while I understand Brian's viewpoint, but it was a campus decision to not do it because it would have required a student referendum. And we felt during the pandemic, there was just too many other things going on that was not a good timing. So that's the reason why we're doing the incremental instead of trying to do it at once.
Correct. And so the advantages to this is that, one, this may be a real normal year for us now, and even we know it's not normal because of COVID, but our numbers are growing. We have already had 75,000 people in the building. We are over the last month, we're averaging almost 600 a day. Again, we're over 700 non-student members per month for the last 2 months, which we went from like 250 to 300 to 500 to skip 600, and now we're at 700. We're offering 22 group fitness classes a week with wellness programming at no cost. There's a lot of things that you're starting to get a taste of. We don't know if it's sustainable because, again, all my professional staff, and we have 4 graduate assistants, we're all working, sorry, HR, don't come after us. We're all working way more than what we are going to be able to do long-term. So because we don't have competitive wages, we're always in a state of hiring, which means our staff never progress beyond basic levels of competencies. But if we can hire students and keep developing them over 3 or 4 years, well, that has a direct impact on the experience that you as students are going to get. I started officiating, never left a game in my life. After 3 years, was one of the best flag football officials in the country. It was a long time ago. All right. But right now, I can't even hire student officials because domestic students don't want to work for us because they can go work at McDonald's for $15 an hour, or they can work for us for $7.76. And then intramural sports, we have like 5 games a season. Okay. Great questions. Any other questions? I know I'm way over my time. I apologize. That's just me. Cool. I'm gonna turn this back over to Deidre. I will hang around if anyone wants to talk afterwards.
Okay, all right. For the next presentation, we'll have Mr. Mark Denny, our Vice President for Administration and Finance, come down here and talk about the increase to your designated tuition and your dining meal plan.
See it.
No, this is gonna use.
Oh, they did it. It's not open up there.
Yeah, we didn't change, or I don't believe we changed anything.
Okay, that one seems to be working.
Okay, all right, very good. Then I will continue. So real briefly, just give a little bit of background. That's kind of what is driving the cost increase is, coming out of the pandemic, we're seeing, you've heard about the Great Resignation, but also a lot of things are going on that where our labor costs are going up pretty significantly. And for the university, almost 70% of our total cost is labor. We really have, as an institution, we have two assets. We have our buildings and we have our people, staff, and faculty. And so a substantial portion of our cost is our labor costs. And we're anticipating them that they're going to increase. We're budgeting at least for as much as a 5% increase. We're seeing in some isolated instances significantly higher increases for that as you get into specialized fields, but we're trying to manage that. The university is trying a lot of things to manage our costs. First, looking where every opportunity to reduce costs. And we're doing that on an ongoing basis. We're also looking to use reserves. The university has fund balances, and that's the reason why you have reserves and why you have fund balances is when unanticipated things happen that cause your costs to change substantially and over a short period of time. Instead of just directly asking your in this case, our students, but in any organization, pushing that cost onto your customer, you need to be able to smooth that out. And so that's why we have reserves. And then again, the third path is looking at increasing tuition, but minimally and select fees. And the bottom line is trying very hard not to overreact as we see, what is the path, or what is higher education going to look like coming out of the pandemic. I don't think it's going to change drastically, but it is undergoing changes right now. Okay. Where's my... Oh, I hit that button, but anyway. Okay, so one of the things we're looking at is a moderate increase of about 2.5% per year for our resident undergraduate and our resident graduate. And the real reason why we're looking for no increase for our non-resident is for anybody in the audience who's a non-resident student, you already pay a substantial amount higher. It's more than double. And one of the reasons, the rationale behind charging non-resident students more than resident students is because it should cover the gap of the funding that we get from the state. And in reality, the state supplies about 30 to 35% of our total funding, which is substantial. And I want to, if there's any legislators in the audience, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Coming from other states, I know that Texas actually does a pretty good job compared to other states, but it's still only about 35% of our total funding. And so having a gap between resident and non-resident of a double is an over, and it's just happened over time. But one of our challenges is that we struggle recruiting non-resident students because we are very high in the market. If you look at what the tuition is charged in other public universities in and around our region, we're at the top end of the market for non-resident students. For resident students, we're competitive. We're in the lower half, and that's where we'd absolutely want to stay. But for resident students, we're struggling, and we feel to increase would actually not get more dollars because we would see our enrollment decline more than the additional dollars would drive in. And so the proposal is like a 2.5%, which would be $7 per semester credit hour, or a total of $210 per year, on the assumption that you're taking the 15 credits per semester, fall and spring semester. And then for graduate students, $12 per semester credit hour, which would be $216 per year. That's based on the 9 credits at a graduate level per semester, spring and fall semester. And just a little look at how that would impact. These are all the tuition and mandatory fees that we have. And obviously there's that tuition or statutory tuition. That's for resident undergraduate students, $50, designated tuition. This is what they currently are. And then all of the other mandatory fees that we have. We've also included down here at the bottom for reference designated differential tuition. Again, that varies depending on what college you're on. So this is the average, because some of our colleges for an undergraduate student don't charge a designated tuition. I think it's the College of Education. All right. I'm looking at Deja for that. And then the average course fees, they vary depending on what courses. And so the average is $6.10 per semester credit hour. With the proposed recommended change, it would go from, again, on our tuition, $1,500 per year it would stay the same with no increase. That's the next line, designated tuition. That's the 105 per semester or 210. And I think that's an error. It's actually 220. Yeah, it's actually 220. Sorry about that. Per year. And then the $22 as was the requested increase to the rec and wellness fee. So in total, it would be $220 increase for, my math's not right.
It's at the top, the 232.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
It's blocked in my head. So 232 would be the total increase per year. Okay. And just looking at each student category, resident, undergrad, non-resident, resident, graduate, and non-resident, and the green highlighted areas are the increases. And at the bottom, you see the total increase per year in tuition and mandatory fees that is being requested, as well as the percentage. So 2.5% for tuition and mandatory fees for a resident undergraduate student, and 2.4% for a resident graduate, and then substantially lower because it would be only the Rec and Wellness Center fee. But you see the disparity in what is paid between a resident and a non-resident student. The 9.3 versus 25.7. And for a graduate student, and again, they pay a higher tuition rate, but it's on 9 credits. So that's why those dollar amounts are slightly less. So after this, the next step is, this slide is wrong because I didn't think you were voting today, but that's fine. And then a full presentation to the Planning and Budget Committee. And then from there, it'll come to a summary presentation to Planning and Budget Committee where they'll be voting, and then it'll go on to University Council, and ultimately a recommendation to President Walker to make his decision, and then it will go to the Board of Regents at May. So that's kind of our timeline and the next steps. With that, I know we're really short on time, so I'll pause. If there's any questions, either online or anybody present, I'd be happy to answer those. No questions? Well, then, thank you very much. I appreciate your time and attention. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm not used to that. So I want to take a moment to say thank you all for asking questions, for getting involved and participating in this meeting today. We will have another one of these next week, so please come back with any questions that you might have. Please invite other students to attend as well. And also, we will be putting together a survey to send out to you to get support or non-support for these things that have been presented here. And also to get your feedback on really, like, what are your thoughts? What are you worried about? What are your concerns? And what do you think is really good about what has been presented today? I hope next week that we'll be able to get the presentation for the dining as well. And so anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and close out. So the next spring Student Government General Assembly meeting will be held on March 8th, 2022 in person and through Zoom for those who are unable to attend in person. At 11:20, student government will hold a weekly mindfulness activity. If you would like to participate, please be present by 11:15 to sign in and gather important information. The session will reopen at 11:25 so others can join us, and we will begin promptly at 11:30. To schedule agenda time, student organization announcements, staff or university office announcements, a completed request form must be submitted on the student government website by 12 noon on Wednesday, March 2nd. And those forms are available at www.uhcl.edu/SGA. And with that, our quote of the day is, I raise up my voice, not so I can shout, but so others can, but so those without a voice can be heard, by Malala. So I'm sorry.
Can we ask folks have a few moments to stay around for the announcement?
If you have a few minutes and those people who want to present, please come down and you're welcome to present. At least that way it'll be recorded. If you need to step out, please go ahead and step out.
And just, there's snacks and drinks out here that Mr. Benny provided for all of y'all. Please eat them up. They're all yours. They're there. There's water as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's still recording and everything.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Oh, hello. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Shelby. I'm with Student Involvement and Leadership. I see we still have some people online, so I welcome you to stay. We have a few awesome upcoming events and programs that we'd love to tell you about.
First off, if you are registered in Harris County, you can vote on campus today till 7 p.m. Ooh, hello. Till 7 p.m. In the garden room. So if you are registered in Harris County, please vote. If you're registered in any other county, come talk to me. I'll help you find your polling site and we will get you to vote today before 7 p.m.
All right. Okay, tomorrow is the last day to sign up a chili cook-off team. If you want to gather a group of friends, your student organization, partner with the campus office, we recommend you sign up for a team. There's a lot of information involved in it, but we're here to help walk you through it and offer support if you need it. So just let us know if you need that or if you're thinking about signing up for a team but nervous, let me know. We can talk more about it. All right, we also have student leadership positions available in student involvement and leadership. This includes the student government positions Jay was showing earlier. This also includes being Hunter the Hawk and the flight crew, being a part of campus activities board, being a part of Hawk Spirit and Traditions Council. Applications close next week, March 7th. And this is a year-long position that you can make a campus-wide impact. So we definitely recommend you apply if you're interested at all.
Okay, by show of hands, who's going to be in Houston during spring break?
Woo!
Okay, look at this. Awesome.
All of us.
So I hate to crash your spring break, but if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be so bored during spring break. Like I'm going to rest for like a couple of days. I'm going to watch my Netflix shows or my, what are we doing now? Paramount, HBO, all those things. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm done. I've watched all of it. And you're like, I want to do something different, something wild this spring break. Then don't go to Cancun. You can come here and you can volunteer in the community. We have 2 service learning opportunities during spring break, one on Monday, March 14th with Buffalo Bayou, and one on Thursday, March 17th with Stephen F. Austin State Park. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to go to a state park, this is your chance. You get to spend the whole day there, you get your meals paid for, and you just get to have fun by giving back to the community. Who's in?
Yes.
Oh, okay, look at that. Oh, look at this. This made my whole day. So the link is right there and you'll be getting an email at some point today reminding you about that. So please go ahead and sign up.
Transportation and lunch provided. Okay, we also have a couple upcoming leadership workshops. If you are just looking for that that next little inspiration to spark you for the rest of your semester. We have a couple workshops coming up: staying motivated, balancing school life and leadership, as well as passing the baton, making officer transitions smooth and seamless. That's specifically for student organizations. As you start thinking about transitioning your officers to the next year sometime soon. So we welcome you to join those. They're virtual, so you can just hop on Zoom wherever you're at.
I didn't get that.
Oh, excuse me. All right. Okay, I think this is the last one. Student Leadership Awards. We are currently accepting recommendations. So all of you amazing student leaders in the crowd, we recommend that you recommend yourself, recommend your student organization, your advisor, or your peers for one of many awards we have. We have about 15 of them for both individuals, like the Emerging Leader Award, or for organizations like Civic Engagement Award, things like that. So go online, see what awards there are, work on an application as a group or on your own, and let us know. Awesome. Any questions?
So who all gets to do recommending?
Everybody.
So including faculty and staff?
Yep, student, staff, faculty, everybody can recommend, and then the Student Leader Award Committee will gather and come up with the leaders of each category, and then you'll be invited to the Student Leadership Banquet at the end of April. Yeah, it's the UHCL Oscars. Say the name. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for letting us do that late.
Absolutely.